Happy Pride Month. Yeah. Go to capitalcitypride.org, and I know there's like a baseball game tonight, and next weekend, of course, is the East Village. It's lots going on. Welcome to First Friday Breakfast Club. I'm Byron Huff, FFBC president. My pronouns are he, him, his. FFBC is an association of gay, bi, and trans men and their allies formed in 1996 and is a 501c3 entity making your contributions tax deductible. Including this year, FFB has awarded nearly $450,000 for scholarships that are awarded annually to high school seniors who have done significant things to reduce homophobia in their schools and communities. In 1997, FFBC awarded one $3,000 scholarship. We're awarding a record $42,000 to 14 remarkable humans this morning. Thank you to everyone that made this possible, donors and board members and lots of people behind the scenes to get this so organized. I only have one announcement this morning. I want to recognize Bob Thielen's 78th birthday. He and his husband are scholarship underwriters this year. So sit down. And many more. Okay, our speaker this morning is Zach Wahls. He was first elected to the Iowa Senate in 2018. He was elected to his second term in 2022, representing Senate District 43, which includes Coralville, North Liberty, Solon, and part of Western Iowa City, and rural Northeast Johnson County. Senator Wahls has served as the Iowa Senate Democratic leader since November 2020. Zach ran for the Iowa Senate to give all Iowans a voice. Growing up in a non-traditional family, he learned early that what it was like to be left out, and he remembers how hard families like his had to fight to get a seat at the table. Prior to his election, Zach worked primarily as an advocate in the LGBTQ civil rights movement following his 2011 testimony before the Iowa House Judiciary Committee in Defense of Marriage Equality and his two-mom family. In this capacity, he wrote extensively about his family's experience, including a best-selling book, and has spoken to hundreds of audiences, including a primetime speech at the 2012 Democratic National Convention. As an Eagle Scout, Zach co-founded and led Scouts for Equality, which successfully executed a national campaign to end discrimination against LGBTQ people in the Boy Scouts of America. Outside of legislature, Zach serves as Vice President of Community Investment and Development at Green State Credit Union, Iowa's largest financial cooperative. He also owns and operates a small business with his sister selling custom-made playing cards. And he is co-owner of his family tree farm in Northeast Iowa. So he's very busy. And those playing cards are interesting. I just saw those this morning. Famous people on them, so it makes playing cards fun. Zach completed his master's in public affairs from Princeton University's School of Public and International Affairs in 2018, and his bachelor's from University of Iowa in 2014. He is married to his wife, Dr. Chloe Angel, in 2021, and they live with their dog, Zelda, in Coralville. I also want to add that Zach wasn't awarded an FFBC scholarship in 2011. So great things are to come for all of our... I don't know if you want to become a senator or not, but you know, you have aspirations. Please join me in welcoming Zach Wahls.
Can everybody hear me okay in the back? We're good on the Zoom machine. We're good. All right, very good. Well, Byron, thank you so much for that very warm introduction. And First Friday Breakfast Club, it is good to be back with you for, I believe, the third time joining you for breakfast here on a Friday morning. I want to say, first of all, congratulations to all 14 of the scholarship recipients. No pressure about running for office. I mean, seriously, you've all got so much to focus on ahead of you in terms of college and self-discovery and finding and starting your own path. But congratulations to all of you, and thank you to every single person in this room who contributed to make those scholarships possible. Let's give all of those donors another round of applause. I'm going to speak this morning for just a little bit. Several of you have heard me already give some biography, so I don't want to spend too much time on that. But obviously, we had a very difficult legislative session, and so I want to address some of the challenges that we saw under the Golden Dome this year, and then I want to leave plenty of time for some conversation and discussion or questions and answer. But the thing that to me strikes me that's most important about this moment is how important it is for us to have this community and this space to come together. Byron mentioned, obviously, today is June 2nd, the second day of Pride Month. And I think it's just so important, and especially in moments like this, where it does feel like we are a community that is under attack, that we're facing a backslide, for us to be able to come together, have space, and during this month to celebrate Pride and let folks know we are not going back. You all know it, and I know it, and there's no use sugarcoating it. This was a particularly awful session of the legislature that did so much more harm than good, especially with all of the attacks aimed at Iowa's LGBTQ community. For years now, there has been a large majority of predominantly Republican legislators in the Iowa legislature, led by Governor Reynolds, who have made punching down on the LGBTQ community a top agenda item. Year after year, they've passed legislation that has discriminated against LGBTQ Iowans, attacks our communities, disrespects our inherent worth and dignity, marginalizes us, and this year denies young people and young adults healthcare and tries to reverse years of hard-fought progress. And this year was maybe the worst one that we've seen so far. In all, anti-LGBT legislators introduced nearly 24 bills this year attacking LGBTQ families and communities, many of them specifically focused on children and young adults. And while many of those didn't pass, the bad ideas that they contained were often rolled into larger bills, which are now, unfortunately, law in our state. Republicans passed a ban on gender-affirming care for trans teenagers and young adults, a truly heartless measure that will only create more pain and suffering among young Iowans and prevent Iowa parents from parenting in the way that they see fit. They also passed a bathroom bill that will make bullying and harassment even worse in our schools. They passed Don't Say Gay laws so that students and teachers have to hide their true selves in the classroom, and the governor signed that into law just the other day. They passed a forced outing law that will put kids in danger and force educators to violate their professional ethics. They also passed a law banning teaching about HPV and HIV in health class because I guess they believe if young people don't know about sexually transmitted infections, they won't get them. And their anti-gay panic even extended to the school library with a book ban that will force teachers and librarians to remove works of classic literature, not just books about LGBT experiences, by the way, classic literature from the shelves. These laws are shameful, and we know that they are going to have real-world consequences. As I said on the Senate floor when we were debating some of these awful bills, young people are going to die because of the gender-affirming care ban. We know that kids are going to be bullied, and educators are going to be punished for doing their jobs. And for what? For the people who advance these bills, this is all just politics. They've decided that demagoguery and discrimination helps them with their base voters, and that's worth the human cost to their neighbors and constituents. In Iowa, fundamental rights, basic respect, tolerance, and human decency should be above politics. That's what we're fighting for. I know that's a lot of very bad news, and I wish I had better news to bring you this morning. But despite all the bad things that have happened this year, I do want to say thank you to everybody in this room who took time out of their day to speak up and to be an activist and be a part of the effort against these awful bills. Iowans stood up and spoke out against this legislation all over our state. We saw an incredible outpouring of opposition at every single part, every single phase of the legislative process. Senate Democrats were listening to the kids and parents who testified at the subcommittees against these bad bills. We read the comments submitted on the bills by people from across Iowa, and we marched outside the Capitol and chanted in the rotunda alongside the brave young people who had the courage to challenge these awful bills. Republicans, on the other hand, did their best to ignore the will of the people on these issues, but their ignorance and their divisive partisanship will only take them so far. We are going to continue to stand with our LGBTQ family, and we need all of you to continue standing with us. We have to turn back this tide of discrimination and marginalization, and we can only do that by working together. So I want to close before I take some questions by, again, just underscoring the importance of pride and what that means to have the courage to stand up, to speak out, to say that we aren't going to go back, and to understand that the only way that we make this better is through the political process. I know that politics often can feel icky or slimy or something that we don't want to participate in, but the reason that we are where we are today is because there have been forces that are opposed to our community and our families that have organized relentlessly, have built robust infrastructure across our state, and have campaigned against us. The only way that we're going to defeat them is by doing the same thing, rebuilding our community, re-strengthening our infrastructure, and fighting back as one. And that starts with the Pride Month that we are never going to forget. So thank you all so much for hosting me today, and I'm love to answer any questions that you might have. You can applaud for that. That's all right. Any questions? All right, let's go here, and then we'll go over to not Senator, Supervisor McCoy, right here.
What ways can you and your constituents fight?
It's a great question. So we're here in Polk County, which is one of the counties that has already started the work of reinvigorating, I would say, just at the precinct level, getting back to good old-fashioned community organizing, neighbors talking with neighbors. We're going to have several very competitive elections here in the Metro in the 2024 election in the state legislature, both in the Senate and in the House. In the last several years, several of the seats that we've been able to flip have actually been here in suburban communities, places like Dallas County, where Sarah Trungariot defeated Jake Sinister Agenda Chapman, and in Ankeny, where we were able to flip 2 House seats in this last election cycle, and we're going to have to work very hard to protect those in 2024. So it all starts at the state legislative level, because that's where these laws are being passed. We also have work to do contributing to our statewide effort. So I live in Johnson County over on the eastern seaboard of Iowa. And in the People's Republic, we still have a lot of work to do to continue to increase turnout and to make sure that every single person is voting. I've been really excited to see a renewed effort and renewed energy around young people in particular. We know that millennials and Generation Z are very progressive. We just need to make sure that they need to get out to the polls, get registered to vote, and actually cast their ballots. There was some really promising preliminary data from 2022 that showed that young people's participation in voting is starting to really increase substantially. And so we just need to continue that progress. I've been supporting a group actually here in the Des Moines area of, we're calling it young-ish professionals. So those of us who are like under 40-ish and who want to be getting engaged with other young Democrats. The group is called On Your Left. We're starting just a monthly happy hour networking, and now starting to find school board and city council candidates who are on the ballot this November to make sure that we're able to support them throughout the metro area. The last point I'll just say on that school board and city council piece, we have seen groups like Moms for Liberty, Americans for Prosperity, all these other very right-wing groups get highly organized and very involved in these down-ballot local government races. And so I would say that the work to start turning the page back actually starts this November when we have city council and school board races on the ballot, including a bunch of those right here in Polk County. Matt?
So 2 parts. The AP came out and said that part of what's happening is part of this national agenda. My question is, do we know who's driving that national agenda and funding it? And then secondly, is there any reasonable Republicans left that are uncomfortable with this horrible that librarians are really afraid they're going to be taxed? So what's the plan with the company?
So from the national perspective, I'll tell you this: there is a very well-funded group that goes back to a lot of what we've seen with people who fund the Federalist Society and this attempt to influence our courts. that same group of people who fund that organization have now been funding a variety of C3 and C4 organizations that are now kind of leading the charge in this space. And just to be clear, this is a multifaceted effort. When you saw the governor get involved with several of these primaries against members of her own party last year, a lot of that was funded by these same special interest groups that are based in Washington, D.C. And literally on the night earlier this year, when Iowa passed a private school voucher plan that's going to spend a huge amount of taxpayer money to fund these so-called scholarships, but vouchers to private schools, many of which are religious and discriminate openly against LGBTQ students, that those special interest groups literally flew out to Washington, D.C. to give the governor and Republican senators high fives behind the Senate chamber. And I know that because I watched it happen at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. So they're very organized. They're very well funded. In terms of where the kind of the response is, I think part of the challenge, Matt, is that there were a lot of us, and I would say to some extent, even including myself, who after so many of the victories that we saw through the 2010s, probably got a little complacent. We thought that we had gotten to where we wanted to go, but the folks who are now pushing this legislation saw those losses that they experienced around marriage equality, acceptance in the Boy Scouts and others, and decided that they had to find a new issue, a new wedge issue, and go campaign relentlessly on that. And that is where a lot of these attacks, particularly on our transgender teens and young adults, have come from. So I think that's the kind of that piece of it. In terms of what's next, the thing that we're always pushing back very hard against are changes to Iowa Civil Rights Act. You were there when we added gender identity and sexual orientation to Iowa's Civil Rights Code. Protecting that continues to be something that's absolutely paramount to us. And unfortunately, I think our greatest fear is that that's what's next on the chopping block. In terms of are there reasonable folks left? Part of the problem is the governor has literally led campaigns against those folks in her own party. There were, I think, 8 or 9 of those primary challenges last year. The governor prevailed in 6 or 7 of them, just kind of depending on how you do the math. And we need Republican allies. We just don't have very many in the legislature right now. Yep. Trudy?
What can you tell us about
So I was I was elected in 2018, and I joined a Senate Democratic caucus that had, obviously been in the majority and as recently as 2016, and that, for several years at that point had been in the minority. The bad news is we've lost some great senators to retirements and to some tough campaign losses. The good news is, and I just mentioned one of our rising stars earlier, Senator Sarah Choen-Garriott was able to defeat scare away Charles Schneider, who had been the Senate president over in kind of Polk County, Western Polk County, over in Dallas County, and then defeat outright Jake Chapman in 2022. And we have a couple of other folks who have joined our caucus. We have the first out queer woman in the Iowa Senate, Senator Liz Bennett from Lynn County. And then over in the House, there's been a huge amount of turnover as well. And so even though you may not necessarily consider all of these to be household names, we have new faces, people like Isaiah Knox, who was recently elected to his first term here in the Iowa Senate, the first Black man to serve in the Iowa Senate in over 20 years. So we have a growing bench. We got a lot of work to do, but that's also true to where these down ballot races, city council, school board are so important, because your city councilors and school board members of tomorrow can be your state representatives and senators of the year or two after that. So that's something that's really, really important. Thank you. Let's go here and then there. Go ahead. Look, I don't have enough positive things to say about Senator Choen-Garriott. If I could clone her, I think I'd be the majority leader in a couple of years. But unfortunately, the scientists are still working on that technology. They've been too busy with AI. And so, we've obviously got a lot of great folks on our team. Being able to be an effective advocate with your senator, your representative, is super important. But I would also say, going back to the question earlier, it's so important that we're able to talk to our neighbors, our friends, our family, our coworkers. That's where so much of this is going to happen. Unfortunately, a lot of that advocacy, as important as it is, often falls on deaf ears unless you have the right person in office. And a lot of our work that's ahead of us has to be on getting the right people back in office. Byron, I also do want to keep an eye on the clock, so I think this will probably be our last question. It's a great observation. And it goes back to an observation that I've made several times, which is that when you want to describe the predominant emotion in the State House right now, I would say the most common, and this is not a good thing, the most common emotion that you experience in the State House today is fear. Predominantly from Republicans of their own governor, because they saw what happened to their colleagues who had courage to speak out against the more radical and extreme elements of that agenda. There's also a culture of fear within the business community, a fear of retribution, that if they exercise their First Amendment right to free speech and advocacy, that they will be punished by the state of Iowa under the leadership of our current governor for speaking out and having the courage to advocate for their employees and their families. Think about how awful that is. So look, there's no doubt that we're going to have to get to a point where that culture of fear is being addressed. People are, by the way, you can't have courage unless there's fear. It doesn't take courage to do something that you're not afraid to do, right? Fear is what comes before courage. And so it's going to take some time, and I'm not totally sure how exactly it's going to happen just yet. But I will tell you that it's not going to be just the business community. It's going to be people like those who are in this room. It's going to be people across the state who want to speak up but don't quite have the right words to say yet, finding that courage to speak up and then bringing along more allies as we go, because you're absolutely right. We can't do it alone, right? This community is not big enough for us to do it on our own. We need allies. We need supporters. They're hard to find right now, but I know that they're out there. And if we're able to do what we can do to galvanize more support, we're going to have more allies as we go along the way. So that's a nice note to end on. Happy Pride, everybody. Thank you all so much. And again, congratulations to the recipients of today's scholarships.
Thank you, Zach. It wasn't the best message, but the hopeful message is that good eventually wins over. Thinking back in history when things like this, similar things, banning books and marginalizing segments of a country, it's a disturbing history. Hitler dismantled democracy, and democracies are fragile. It takes people to stand up. It's already, as Zach said, it's already been shown. There's fear of retribution by our governor, DeSantis, and Disney. It happens, and it's unbelievable. The best thing we can do is stand up for those businesses and speak out. So on that, now I'd like to introduce Ken Hansen, Scholarship Committee Chair, and Tim Schreck to present our scholarship awards.
Good morning. I'm Tim Schreck, member of the 2023 First Friday Breakfast Club Scholarship Committee. Students, families, FFBC members, and guests, welcome. We are so happy you've joined us today to honor 14 outstanding student leaders who have significantly fought homophobia and promoted LGBTQ and queer acceptance in their high schools and communities. And this year, with the unimaginable happenings in our State House, we have a special message for our scholarship awardees. You are welcome here. You are safe, you are necessary, you're important, and we celebrate you today for being exactly the stellar persons you are meant to be. On to a few acknowledgements. Thank you to our scholarship committee members who put in many hours reviewing and deliberating 35 applications this year. Several of us presented the scholarships to these recipients at their high school senior recognition programs in May. Will all committee members and presenters please stand or wave and be recognized? We want to thank the members of our fundraising committee for our outreach, as well as every donor to the FFBC scholarship program. Without you, we could not make this happen. For the 2023 scholarships, we received contributions from over 80 households and organizations, and every dollar received is so appreciated. Each scholarship awarded today is for $3,000. We especially want to acknowledge that 7 of our 2023 scholarships have been underwritten for the full amount. We would love to sing the praises of each underwriter, but again, we have 14 students to recognize, so we hope it's enough to list those sponsors and to express our collective appreciation for your support. Underwriters include Trudy Holman Hurd and her late husband, David, through the G. David and Trudy Holman Hurd Fund, David Cotton, retired Army General and Air Force, and I get this wrong every time, Air Force General and FFBC board member. Jane Ann Cotton, mother of David. The Polk County Board of Supervisors, through the support of Supervisor Matt McCoy. Bruce Carr and Robert Thalen. Phil Bronner and Ted Johnson, and John Charles and David Nelson. Please show your appreciation to these amazing sponsors and allies. And now on to the awards. Today is the first time most of you will hear the names of these 14 amazing students. I assure you, it will not be the last time.
In the interest of time, we're going to focus on these wonderful students' efforts to promote LGBTQ acceptance and fight homophobia in their high schools and communities. These impressive students have taken on leadership roles in a range of local, statewide, and national organizations, demonstrating a range of personal passions. And most of them had part-time jobs or internships as well. One more group we want to acknowledge is all the family and friends who are joining us today in support of our awardees. We know each of you has your personal experience of supporting your child, sibling, or beloved friend. In the end, it is your support that has helped these young people become strong, impressive leaders we see today. You made that choice. Please, all of you, stand as you are able to receive our warmest appreciation. Okay, today's all about these wonderful young adults. Let's get to it. Awardees, when we announce your name, please come to the side of the podium as we share a few words about you. Once you're presented your award, we will take a photo or two, then you can head back to your seat. When we are finished with all the presentations, we would like all of you to come back up and receive our collective appreciation and a group photo or two. Parents and guests, you're invited to take photos at that time as well. As a special treat, you and your families are invited to spend some time after the awards enjoying the art and history of this amazing facility, Hoyt Sherman Place. Now, onto the scholars. Max Cline. Max is a graduate of Cedar Rapids, Washington High School and the recipient of the FFBC scholarship sponsored by John Charles and David Nelson. The first line we read in Max's essay was, "I've always believed in standing up for the little guy." And Max expanded on that over the years by leading protests against anti-queer legislative actions, as well as fighting for people with disabilities, women, people of color, and all who are oppressed. His out-front presence during protests against Iowa's anti-trans athlete laws led to family conflict, but Max remained steadfast. His leadership came out in the 8th grade when he sort of nominated himself as king of the junior high GSA. And everyone else supported him. And again in high school when he assumed leadership of the GSA as a junior. The GSA has fought for gender-neutral restrooms and created a school-wide ally day, and is now a safe space for everyone in the school. The future looks brighter with leaders like you, Max. Congratulations.
Oh boy, this is going to be a long morning. Okay. All right. Olivia Moody. Olivia graduated from Norfolk High School and is awarded the scholarship as sponsored by Jane Ann Cotton. Although she was in high school when she identified as pansexual, Olivia told us that at a younger age, she was the knight in shining armor for her middle school queer community. In high school, Olivia has carried on through involvement in student government, re-energizing the GSA, and even planting the seeds for a future gender-neutral homecoming court. She is an active member of Future Farmers of America, despite facing prejudice and homophobia on a regular basis. Olivia also created a school environmental club, and in 2002, she was named the Beekeeper Honey Queen by a regional Iowa beekeeper organization. So she went from a knight to a queen. One of Olivia's letters of recommendation described her this way: Olivia spent her high school years building a stronger, healthier, kinder world. We see that and think it's pretty awesome. Congratulations, Olivia.
Ava Rossow. Ava is a graduate of Roosevelt High School in Des Moines. She came to understand her sexuality in grade school, and with a supporting community, made a lot happen in high school. Ava led the GSA organization at Roosevelt for 3 years, working to create an open and accepting environment for all. She understands how lucky she was to have a supportive family and friends, and worked to create that environment for anyone needing a safe space. She and the GSA members have participated in Student Day at the Capitol, the Governor's Conference, and other social cause activities. Ava was at the front of the school protest against recent anti-LGBTQ legislation being debated at the Iowa Capitol. She also works with Eyes Open Iowa, an organization focused on providing comprehensive sex education information, as a member of their youth leadership board. Ava's advocacy impressed us greatly, and we see a fantastic future for her. Congratulations, Ava.
Lilly Beth Froehlich. Lilly Beth is a graduate of Waukee High School and is awarded the scholarship sponsored by Bruce Carr and Robert Thalen. Lilly Beth's advocacy started at a young age when she confronted her less than receptive church youth group and pastor about her identity. Lilly Beth understood she was bisexual and was tired of feeling isolated and excluded in that space. In the following years, Lilly Beth had the opportunity to meet a group of older LGBTQ and queer kids who helped her fully accept herself, and then she took off. She became a visible leader of protest against anti-trans legislation. She led the Say Gay walkout at her school and jumped at the opportunity to join the Iowa Youth Cabinet, where she has had the opportunity to address many of her state leaders about queer realities in the face of difficult legislation. Lilly Beth hopes for a future studying environmental policy, continuing to fight the good fight. Congratulations, Lilly Beth.
Leo Friedman. Leo Friedman is a graduate of Newton High School and received the scholarship sponsored by David A. Cotton, a fellow Newton High grad. While the COVID pandemic had its many challenges, it allowed Leo space to see that the homophobic friends in his life were not who he needed, and he started to surround himself with open-minded, welcoming people. In his senior year, he came to fully understand and accept that he was bisexual. At the same time, he saw what was happening around books and education in Iowa, and decided to respond by creating the Newton High School Filmmaking Club. This year, with the club membership and cast of dozens, the dystopian feature film The Refinement was born, an anti-totalitarian epic with a gay, positive, loving relationship at the center. Hundreds have seen the film, and another positive image of gay love is in the world. Leo has hopes of working in I can't talk today. Math. While dreaming of greatness in the arts, and FYI, he loves reading banned books. Congratulations, Leo.
Jackson Kaune. Jackson Kaune is a graduate of Dallas Center Grimes High School. The two words that came up over and again in Jackson's application were leader and advocate. He has held primary roles in various organizations at DCG, with the most impactful as leader of the community club, which was started post-COVID and is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Jackson signed on as co-leader of the club and immediately jumped into educating his school about the range of communities and cultures represented at DCG. Jackson also participated in the GSA and spent a day of conversations at the state capitol, talking to any legislator willing to explain themselves to a well-informed student advocate. Jackson told us he didn't really have to come out because his closet was made of glass. But Jackson chose to step from that safe environment into the advocacy for so many who are less fortunate and less protected. And we think that is fabulous. Congratulations, Jackson.
Beatrice Goldberry. Beatrice is a graduate of Liberty High School and the recipient of the scholarship sponsored by Trudy Holman Hurd. She is also the advocate and ally you want in your corner. Beatrice told us about the extreme challenges her younger trans brother faced in his life. Having witnessed some of the worst homophobia impacting her brother, she was inspired to support every member of the LGBTQ community, however she could. She participated in the West Liberty GSA, led by a supportive teacher. But when that teacher left the school and no other teacher would step up, Beatrice took over the leadership role. She recognized that the GSA needed to continue as a safe space for every student. As of March, a couple GSA members had led a well-attended walkout to protest state legislation. Iowa Safe Schools has been engaged for a visit, and a new teacher advisor has stepped forward for next year. Beatrice also works as an AmeriCorps assistant, helping fellow students prepare for college. Yes, we definitely want her in our corner. Congratulations, Beatrice.
Levi Cooper. Okay. Levi graduated from Carlisle High School and is the recipient of the scholarship sponsored by the Polk County Board of Supervisors. Here are a few of Levi's activities in the past couple of years. Creator and leader of the school diversity club called Rally, student ambassador for New Kids, and AmeriCorps leader helping fellow students learn about college options and preparations. Levi led a fundraiser which allowed the GSA to create and provide 40 blankets for local senior citizens. During the student day at the Capitol, Levi spoke one-on-one with his local legislator about the proposed book bannings. He related his story of needing some of those books as a child in order to feel he belonged and was not the only gay person out there. And he did all this while working toward high school graduation and earning an associate's degree at DMAC. Levi has long-term plans to get a music therapy degree and to continue his work of service and advocacy, caring for anyone who crosses his path. Well done, Levi.
Beau Kell. Beau is a graduate of Cedar Rapids, Washington High School. Beau's primary drivers are about inclusion and acceptance. About 3 years ago, Beau realized they were a transgender male. While family understanding and acceptance took some time, they found a supportive community of queer friends quickly. And then they went to work as the student editor for the school yearbook. Beau included a spread about the GSA, and this year will include features about anti-LGBTQ legislation in the state and how Cedar Rapids, Washington students responded with walkouts and other activities. Beau told us that they want to represent the LGBTQ community, both its issues and joys, in the yearbook, and their efforts are supported by the school. Beau has future plans to work in the field of education, always motivated by promoting inclusion and acceptance. Congratulations, Beau.
Noah Wasek. Noah is a graduate of Marion High School. Noah came to understand he is gay early in high school, and though a bit nerve-wracking, the act of coming out to his family and some friends was met with support and love. But other experiences were harder, so what Noah did was find the places and people where he felt supported and wanted. He was a pretty good player, as you can probably see, but he dropped football, stayed in band, and his junior year became the drum major for the band. The high-profile leadership role which Noah earned and embraced as an openly gay man. He became student director for the fall school play the last 2 years. As a member of the choir, he worked with school administration to implement a policy allowing students to room with whomever makes them feel safest on class trips, regardless of gender. In multiple situations, Noah experienced homophobia and then found a way to move past it and find a better space to the benefit of his school, his classmates, and himself. Congratulations, Noah.
Next is Kenzie Fick. Kenzie Fick is a graduate of Roland Story High School. One of her recommendation letters described her as an athlete, an actor, and an advocate. And looking at the list of activities she provided, that makes sense, as it appears she did everything she could in high school. The activity that caught our eye was how she led the effort to resurrect the school's GSA. The club had been inactive for several years due to low participation, but also lack of support from school officials. Kenzie became the leader of the renewed GSA club and helped her create an environment for experiencing, in her words, open and comfortable queerness. As a highly visible, openly queer student, Kenzie also became the go-to person for students and staff who had questions, were just becoming aware of their sexuality, or were not comfortable being open in the conservative environment of her school. By being her true self, Kenzie earned the respect and admiration of many. Well done, Kenzie.
Dakota Walling. Dakota is a graduate of St. Ansgar High School. Dakota grew up in Manly and attended classes in St. Ansgar, the smallest school represented today with a graduating class of 37. It's a rural, conservative, Northern Iowa community, and yet his junior year, Dakota knew that he had to come out and live as a transgender man. He's the first student in the St. Ansgar system to come out as transgender. He faced extreme transphobia from family and former friends, but remained true to himself. Before his senior year, 2 single-use restrooms at the school were relabeled as non-gender due to Dakota's advocacy. One of his references told us, Dakota has been an advocate for LGBTQ youth, has led by example, has left a positive impact on our school and community. And whether he realizes it or not, Dakota is a role model for our younger students who feel they have to hide their true selves. That is what this day is all about. That is spectacular.
Kendall Duit. Kendall Duit graduated from Iowa Falls Alden High School. They have been openly queer for a while, and proudly so, while taking on leadership roles in their concert and jazz band. In their junior year, an opportunity arose to be a leader for the LGBTQ community they love. A teacher decided at the school it was time to start a GSA, and Kendall was asked to be the junior class representative. In their senior year, Kendall was named president of the club. There have been some ups and downs, but the club survives, and Kendall hopes the groundwork they put in with potential GSA leaders will help them to establish the club as a long-term fixture. Kendall hopes to have a future in creating and managing music performance. We like the sound of that. Congratulations, Kendall.
Dallas Olderbing. Dallas Olderbing is a graduate of Mount Vernon High School and the recipient of a scholarship sponsored by Phil Bronner and Ted Johnson. Dallas gets things done, a lot of things. He is a fierce advocate leading school protests against recent anti-LGBTQ legislation. As a member of the school yearbook and website staffs, in 2022, Dallas was named one of 10 emerging journalists by the Iowa High School Press Association. And he is a carrier of important messages, most notably his all-state speech performance of A Poem for Pulse, to ensure the queer community was represented in state speech competitions. And then there is his dancing. Dallas uses his love of dance as yet another venue to tell the world who he is. He puts beginner dancers, 5 to 8-year-old kids, through their paces, and has been lead performer in various school and community performances since 8th grade. In fact, on the day we notified Dallas of his scholarship award, he had to cut the call a bit short because he had to get back to rehearsal as choreographer for the spring school musical. Bravo, Dallas, and congratulations. What a day. Wow. What a morning and what an amazing group of young adults. Please join me again in congratulating all of our 2023 FFBC scholarship recipients. Awardees and families, please remain on hand for your group photo and feel free to snap individual and family photos. We might have to clear some space up here for a little bit, but scholars, get to know each other, share information. We hope you see each other as resources in your coming college journeys and beyond. Then, if interested, spend some time here at the Hoyt Sherman Gallery and Theater. Thanks to everyone who attended today, and please spread the good word that our future looks brighter after meeting these amazing students. And happy Pride.
Wow. Thank you, Ken and Tim. Amazing job. Please join me in applause to congratulate our scholarship recipients and the family that's here to support them. That is so important. What a wonderful morning, hearing about and honoring our 2023 scholarship winners. I have no doubt these young people will go on to make a difference in our world. I'd like to invite everyone to future meetings. We meet every month, the first Friday, except next month, July. We have a donor appreciation party. That's fun to find out about that on our website, ffbciowa.org. For more information about upcoming speakers, and we also archive our newsletters. I encourage you to send us an email. We'll add you to our email list. We don't spam. We just send a meeting invite and our newsletter, which we have, I think, an incredible newsletter, thanks to the board members that work on that and write articles. So I also know Rick Miller wants to invite people to the Pride Center that's walking distance from Hoyt Sherman if people want to do that. He may have approached some of you about that. So that is all I have for our program this morning. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.